You are tuned to ARP on the Accelerated Radio Network. It's 12 noon, and it's time to have lunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Bringing money talk you can understand. And now here's your host, Miss Charline.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Miss Charline, and welcome to Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Today we have in our studio Leilani Cruz. Hi, Leilani.
Hello, everyone.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine. So I want to introduce you, and I wanted you to tell us a little bit about yourself. Today we'll be talking about healthy living with diabetes, right?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me a little about yourself.
My name's Leilani. I'm a type 1 diabetic.
Okay.
I was a bodybuilder.
Okay.
I'm currently in the PR and marketing industry. I recently just graduated. I work like 3,000 jobs. And I don't know what else.
Well, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah,
I always tell you, you're one of the busiest people I know.
Yeah, it's hard, but balance is everything. So I'm like, anywhere I get a free minute, I just shove something in there.
That's the markings of success.
Yay! So, success.
Absolutely. Now, I wanted to find out some of your personal story. Like, when did you discover that you had diabetes, and how did you discover you had diabetes?
I was diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic at age 18.
Okay.
Type 1 diabetes is known to be juvenile diabetes, so a lot of people get it when they're younger, or some people are born with it. I had symptoms growing up, but I was never fully diagnosed. And the way that I did find out was I caught the flu, and when I was in the works of getting better, I was prescribed antibiotics, steroids for my lungs, and all these different medications, and my body just couldn't handle it and wasn't able to filter those medications out. So my pancreas decided to retire early, and it no longer produces insulin. So I have to manually inject insulin, and that was how I found out. Was after recovering from the flu, I had lost weight. Like, I had weighed in at 5'7" and being 95 pounds.
Wow.
And my parents were like, something is wrong with you.
Right.
Or you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing.
Right.
So when they took me in, they did blood work, they did all of these tests, and they said, well, you're diabetic. And so that's how I found out.
Right. So that was like the beginning of a new chapter in your life, right?
Definitely. It was something that I had never, my grandparents have type 2 diabetes, but there are no like studies that link them together. And so type 1 diabetes was something not only myself that I had to learn to adjust to, but my entire family. So.
Right. So now, what is the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes?
Type 1 diabetes is, it's basically your pancreas. What it does is it's supposed to produce an insulin throughout the body,
right,
and that helps process food and break down foods into like carbs and sugars and stuff like that. And so my pancreas doesn't do that. And then type 2 diabetes is your organs become damaged. Some people, it's like your organs are collectively filled with like fat, or something is blocking those organs from producing what they're supposed to be producing.
Okay.
So they can't function the way that they're supposed to. Type 2 diabetes can be reversible. There have been studies, and people who have recovered from type 2 diabetes, but type 1 diabetes is literally my pancreas is just a non-functioning organ.
It doesn't function. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between the two.
Yeah, and mine is more of a chronic illness because it's lifelong. And there has been, at least for what I know, that there has not been a cure except for inserting an artificial pancreas.
Okay.
And then for type 2 diabetes, you can reverse it by taking care of yourself, being healthy, exercising, eating better, stuff like that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So now, are there any medications involved when you are type 1 diabetic?
Yes. I take insulin shots. There is something called a pump, and it can produce insulin for you and do it automatically, but I'm kind of a control freak, so I like to know exactly what's going in and out of my body. So I have a long-term and a short-term insulin. The short-term helps digest and break down immediate food intake, and then the long-term is similar to that of an IV, where it keeps my blood sugar levels stable, so I'm not like peaking and dropping all of the time. And then I know for type 2 diabetes, it varies. Some people can manage their diabetes with no medication. Some have to take oral medicine, and some also do insulin injections. So it just depends on the level and severity of the disease.
Right, but it sounds like it's like an ongoing maintenance process to remain healthy.
Yes, definitely. And I think people in general should just be more aware of healthy living and maintaining a healthy lifestyle, so that they don't have to face illnesses like diabetes or I don't know, other things that are going on right now. So
that's very true. Now, is it true that diabetes is caused by overconsumption of sugar, or is that just a myth? Or what does sugar have to do with diabetes, if you would explain that?
Well, sugar is it's supposed to be, it was at one point a good thing for us because sugar converts to energy. But over time, we have just had excess amounts of sugar in our diet and what we're consuming throughout the day. Like even there are things called like sugar scrubs, and to me, I'm like, well, your body's still absorbing that sugar, so you're putting it into your bloodstream. So it can be good or bad, but you don't have to avoid sugar just because you're diabetic.
Okay.
There are times where I need sugar, or I'll have a low blood sugar and I need something to bring me back to normal levels. So you don't need to avoid it, but there are times where you should be balancing with the rest of what you're consuming: vegetables, fruits, protein, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're learning a lot today. What are there any foods that you should avoid?
There are certain foods that are higher in the glycemic index that should be avoided, just because they tend to spike your blood sugar levels. Things, even natural foods like cherries, grapes, bananas, those are going to be higher glycemic foods. So I tend to consume those like after a workout or when I do need sugar. I do also try to avoid bread and pasta just because they're processed carbs, and when I do inject my insulin and my body processes those carbs, it doesn't, I guess, drop after if I avoid those. But with things like bread and pasta, my body will process them quickly, and then after there's no like long-term carbs that are sitting there. Okay. If that makes sense.
It does make sense.
So then my blood was like all over
the place. Yeah.
So I try to avoid processed foods, and then just fruits that are high in the glycemic index, unless I do need them, or if it's like a cheat day. And
so
I'm
you
all
have
about them.
cheat days too.
Yes.
Okay.
I love my cheat days. That's when I go like get 3 pints of ice cream. And I have 1 scoop of each, not the whole.
Right. So how did you develop the name A Healthy Diabetic? How did you develop that name? Because I hear that term associated with you all the time.
It was my own marketing campaign.
Okay.
Once I was diagnosed with diabetes, I had to work with nutritionists, coaches. I even changed my major and like studied kinesiology and nutrition for a long time. And then like right before I was finished, I was like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. Let me change my major one more time. But as I was going through the process of learning about diabetes and changing my lifestyle, I became involved in the bodybuilding industry.
Yes.
And so I competed in a few bodybuilding competitions, and bodybuilding can be really expensive. And so a way for me to give back to the community and to kind of build awareness for diabetes was I came up with my own marketing campaign, and that campaign was the Healthy Diabetic campaign. And I basically used my diabetes as a tool to expose the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes, the person's ability to maintain diabetes and live a normal lifestyle. And with that being said, it's because doctors would like tell me, oh, you can't do that. You need to watch what you engage in. Your physical activity should be limited because you're gonna have low blood sugars and then you're gonna spike and do all these things. So basically I use the Healthy Diabetic campaign to market myself in the bodybuilding industry. It helped lock in some sponsors, and then it also helped expose what the diabetes awareness campaign was all about. So that's how I developed that name.
Wow. Well, what it also did was get rid of some of the myths around diabetes. And from what I've learned just from being around you is that a lot of what the doctors said wasn't necessarily true either.
Yes.
Because they told you low activity, monitor how much time you spend exercising and all of that. And you've been in bodybuilding competitions, which is very competitive and strenuous, and then tell us a little bit about the physical fitness part of it, because you're also a coach. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so the physical fitness part was really, I have always been really involved in playing sports. Growing up, I did everything from like soccer, swimming, volleyball, basketball, cheerleading, dance. And so everyone who, when they found out, oh, you're diabetic, does that mean that you were eating too much sugar? Right. It was, to me, shocking that people would just put that label on me, just being uneducated, because I had always been active. We never ate like crazy foods or had an unhealthy lifestyle. Right. Growing up, I was like a lot skinnier than what I am now. Like I have some mass on me. But the physical fitness part was what really intrigued me, because the doctors told me that I need to maintain an exercise regimen, but it can't be too intense or else I won't be able to control my blood sugars. So I took that as a challenge, and I was like, you can't tell me what to do, so I'm going to find a way to work around you. Right. And so I did, and I found myself in the bodybuilding industry, and I literally was training like, it started at 1 hour a day. And then slowly as I got closer to the competition, it could be anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. Wow. So I would do like an hour of weight training and then an hour of cardio. And then if I wasn't losing enough mass, it would be an hour of weight training, 30 minutes of abs, and an hour and a half. And then I would just keep building based upon the results that I needed to get. So that is a little bit about the exercise program.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing, because you've not only talked about and educated, through having diabetes, you've educated people on the myths and the differences between type 1 and type 2 diabetes, and also the myth that, your workout regimen and things like that have to be minimal, because that's not necessarily true either. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of limitations out there that people listen to, and I always think, like, if you can conceive it in your mind that you can do more or be more, then it's possible to do or be.
Exactly. Which is exactly why I wanted you to be on the show, because I wanted people who may have some health challenges or what could be considered a health challenge to not allow that to stop them from getting to the goals that they've created for themselves. Because, when you're a child and when you're younger, you have these dreams and aspirations of things you want to do. And sometimes when you're diagnosed with something that may be able to challenge that, people give up on their dreams. Yeah. And I see that you've done the opposite of that. You increased your dreams, you increased the challenges, the things that you wanted to do, and made these things work for you and not against you.